Okay, so rye has long been used, especially winter rye, as a cover crop to prevent erosion. If you have fields that generally also you're worried about the amount of moisture that's on them, right? And a way to sort of draw
Hmm.
moisture out and manage that. You could plant a cereal rye crop as a way to do it. The roots hold their soil into place to prevent that erosion. But remember that when you use some of those things, University of Minnesota is sending out some cautionary statements that you have some pros and cons of using that cover crop. First, you're not going to want to use that on every acre. Always judge field by field which one you want to use. But there's some insects that really like to overwinter in that cereal rye. The Hessian fly, for instance, their cycle, as far as a host, they want to lay eggs in the winter rye. And if it's there for a longer period of time, or if it's there during the time frame when they are going to lay eggs, well, that's going to leave a pest behind in the field. Same thing can happen with armyworms. And winter rye is also an alternative host for barley yellow dwarf virus. I always have to remember to say those in order. And that's actually a disease that can affect a number of our cereals crops. So if you have winter rye planted as a cover crop, but you don't terminate it in time, and it's called a green bridge when it can jump from that host crop to an actual cash crop for us. So keep that in mind that bugs and disease, they like cover crop too. So we got to be really good about when we're planting or when we're desiccating.
Right. I got a couple questions on this, so we're gonna run
Sure.
a minute or two late or behind on this upcoming break. But we have a large urban audience, listeners who aren't involved in ag. If you could simply explain what this cover crop is
Sure.
and what are what's a cover crop? What's it for? What are the benefits for using this in agriculture?
So let's talk about this, what we're facing with 2023. We potentially could be planting late. Yes, I audibly heard farmers roll their eyes thinking, what do you mean potentially? I'm going to be positive. We potentially might be planting late. If in fact that's the case, you have some fields that are going to be really wet. You're not going to be able to get in a timely fashion in order to plant, say, your corn crop. Well, this is a field that due to your rotation, et cetera, needed to go to corn. You might be planting rye as that cover crop to draw moisture out or to prevent wind erosion because that is not going to have a productive crop on it. Okay. And if you left that crop there too long, and let's say you wanted to get to next spring, next season, and you had wanted to then go back in and plant a cereal crop into that rye, which isn't necessarily a common thread, but just using a hypothetical here, if you were to go ahead and plant that crop, but that rye still has those Hessian flies or the armyworm eggs laid into it, those can carry over into the cash crop that you're going to be planting. So I hope, is that a little bit helpful, Justin? Does that give you a little idea of how that cover crop could be managed?
Yeah, it totally does. And yesterday we were kind of touching on a subject kind of similar to with Jason Hansen and Kyle Oki of the Ag Mafia, in which you are a member as well. A bunch of uh, crop consultants,
That's
couldn't get
right.
that word out. But I believe it was Jason was mentioning something about because of the early snowpack and how early we got that in there, and it hasn't gone anywhere, that there might be an issue with pests because of that come thaw due to them
They
living
overwintered
through the
well.
winter in that insulated snow without a cold, frozen ground.
Absolutely. That's the same situation with a concern. And we were talking specifically about flea beetles and canola. When you have that snow
Hmm.
cover on there that insulates it, it protects them. They don't die in a cold winter situation. They had a really good place to hang out.